Hi there, everyone. So now what I would like to do is just go over with you a sample AT assessment. And this is posted on Blackboard as well, but I just wanted to point out some highlights for you. So I also wanted to let you know that I'm using the Chrome extension Cami up here, so you can see it in this top left corner. And what this allows me to do is open up a PDF through my Google Drive account and I can annotate on it. So you can see here I've got my highlights out, so I can highlight a variety of different colors. I can also draw on it, or I can make some shapes. So I'm just going to be using Cami as we're going through. So in my last video, I highlighted that we're recommending an assistive technology assessment really because of an area of concern. So when you look here at these questions from the school, they really are very open-ended. What AT tools are available, how can AT help him compensate, and how can they better help him access the curriculum? So what you're going to see in this evaluation is that it is in every single area of the student's academic IEP. And so it's a very lengthy report. And this isn't ideal, but this is really what the team wanted. They wanted a wide kind of look at everything, but I did want to show you what some of those formative assessments look like. But for me, this was essentially right away a red flag that there could be more direct questions. So what I ended up doing, so you can see that there's the background information, all of the students' current IEP, and this was really important because I wanted to know the students' current accommodations. When we think about the SET framework, I wanted to know the environments in which the student was functioning and the accommodations that he was being provided in those. When we think about the SET framework again, knowing what technology was available. And then this is where I have my referral form questions, where the school really tries to outline how would they know that assistive technology would be successful. And again, when you look at your implementation and trial, it's really where we outline, okay, what's our unit of analysis? How do we know the student is making progress? And that's really the goal of this particular question here is, what is the educational outcome? So what are we hoping for? So gaining independence, we can measure that, correct? So we can choose to track how many prompts the student needs to stay on task or how many prompts the student needs to complete an assignment. That's measurable. Improve academic performance is quite vague. What are we measuring that by? Is it final grades? Is it test scores? And then teaching academic skills, isn't that what teachers are for? So you can see that this paperwork in this particular instance didn't provide the information that I was really looking for, so I had to dive even deeper. So here we can see in this particular evaluation, we are looking at a student who's been diagnosed with ADHD. And then again, you can go through and you can take your time and read all of these, but the team aligned all of the students' academic goals and objectives to the AT evaluation. So what I was really looking for is technology to support the student along all of these different goals and objectives, which is a lot. Again, why it is quite lengthy. So here what we did is I was then conducted all of my interviews. So this is really where I wanted to focus on, okay, tell me really exactly what's going on. And this is where she told me that the student benefited from breaking assignment downs and scaffolding, which is great. Retention of concepts is a concern. Fluency and automaticity is a concern. So you can see here that now we're getting some measurable units here. So it really is helpful once you start looking at your observations and interviews to just make sure here that we're getting some measurable outcomes. Parent, same thing. We're looking at written expression and reading to help with task completion. And here's that retention coming up again. Who hasn't tried Lexia? So we know that the student has had some experience with Lexia and might have some sort of a negative connotation towards that. Favorite subject is gym. So here then I talked about the student observation. But what I really want to highlight today is looking at the writing baseline. So I used this. This is the Wold copy test. And what this does is it compares the student's sentence copy and then written expression across handwriting and typing. And you can see here for this particular student, I did handwriting, typing on a keyboard, typing on an iPad, and speech to text. So you can see the student had a lot of difficulty with just actually typing. So he didn't really like typing. He had a lot of difficulty locating the keys, but he was able to use speech to text accurately. And then we looked at reading and writing, his written expression, I apologize. And so he was really unable to write at this point in time. So he wasn't able to complete that. So what I did there is then I asked him to actually use speech to text. And that was really where he got a lot of success there. And what I wanted to do is, okay, speech to text is awesome. However, what's the challenge of using speech to text in a regular education classroom? You're speaking while everyone else is being quiet. So it's not really a viable tool for a student to use in a classroom. So then I moved on and I thought of different supports that I could trial. And so this one in particular, I started off with low-tech word banks to help the student create his own sentence. So what we did here is we discussed a picture. I created different pieces of paper with the words, and then he was asked to create the sentence. And he was able to create it, which is awesome. So when we think about in your implementation or trial, you could trial low-tech word banks where someone has to create them for the student on the fly and see if the student could create the sentences. And then I also trialed the Clicker Sentences app. And this app is put out by Cricksoft. And what it allows the student to do, and you can see the visual here, is that they have the model sentence up at the top and they have different words within each box. And we'll talk about this in our writing class as well, but I wanted to give you a preview here. And the student can create these sentences with the jumbled up words. So it's really taking the concept of word banks and converting it to electronic. So, and then I did a little writing analysis. So in this particular scenario, given this baseline of this student, what would be the two supports that we would trial if we were doing this student for your implementation or trial project? The two supports would be the low-tech word banks, could be trial number 1, and what would be trial number 2? Oops, highlighted too much there. Pardon me, I'm not on my highlighter. There we go, I'll circle it. Trial number 2 could be our Clicker Sentences app. And now what could be our unit of analysis? Oops. Think to yourself, if we're trialing low-tech word banks and then the Clicker Sentences app, given the questions and the referral from the parent and the teachers, what could be our unit of analysis? You might be thinking level of independence. How might we track that? We could have the teacher. I apologize, this color isn't great. Let's make this. Oh boy, that's better. Teacher track prompts during an assignment. We could also track, if we wanted to, the quality of the work. So we could track the number of grammatically correct sentences. Considering the student in the baseline didn't have any grammatically correct sentences. So if we were then to track that, that would give us some really good information as to what tool increased written productivity. So I just wanted to give you an example here of a baseline and then how we could analyze and pick two tools to use for the trial, and then how we can identify a unit of analysis. So hopefully you liked this little preview. Again, the assessment evaluation, the assessment report example is uploaded into Blackboard. It's actually underneath this video, but just wanted to go through a couple of what the WOLD might look like, what a formative writing assessment might look like, how you could analyze baseline information, and then developing a trial when identifying a unit of analysis. So thanks so much. I'm eager to see your discussion responses on your student.